What if one of the world's most dangerous rivalries today began not with weapons, but with oil, fear, and a government that wasn't supposed to fall? Iran and the West didn't always see each other as enemies, but trust, once broken by power and politics, is hard to rebuild. This is the story of Iran, the West, and the deep historical wounds that still shape global politics today. Part 1. Once upon a time in Persia. Long before headlines and hashtags, Iran, then known as Persia, was one of the world's most advanced civilizations. The Persian Empire stood as a beacon of science, art, and governance. But by the early 20th century, Iran found itself caught between empires, Britain and Russia, and later the United States. The discovery of oil made Iran even more strategically important, both economically and geopolitically. Part 2. Oil, Empires, and Unequal Deals. In 1908, oil was discovered in Iran. The Anglo-Persian Oil Company, which would become BP, gained exclusive rights to extract and export Iranian oil, at terms deeply unfair to Iran. While British industries and militaries ran on Iranian oil, the Iranian people saw little of the profit. The seeds of resentment were quietly planted. In 1951, Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh tried to change that. He nationalized the oil industry to ensure Iran's resources benefited its own people. To many Iranians, this was justice. To British and American leaders, it was a threat to their oil interests and their Cold War strategies. Part 3. Operation Ajax, the coup that echoed. In 1953, fearing Soviet influence and economic loss, the US and UK orchestrated Operation Ajax, a covert CIA operation to overthrow Mossadegh. Iran's elected government was dismantled. In its place, power was restored to Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who aligned closely with the West. The Shah implemented modernization policies but ruled with increasing authoritarianism. Political dissent was silenced, and a dreaded secret police force, Savak, crushed opposition. For many Iranians, democracy had been traded for dictatorship, with foreign fingerprints all over it. Part 4. The 1979 Revolution, a turning point. By the late 1970s, anger boiled over. Economic inequality, political repression, and resentment of Western influence exploded into a full-scale revolution. The Shah fled. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a previously exiled cleric, returned and established the Islamic Republic of Iran. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini was a Shiite religious leader and revolutionary who became the supreme leader of Iran after leading the 1979 Islamic Revolution. He was exiled in 1964 for openly criticizing the Shah's regime and its close ties to the West, especially the US. Many Iranians admired him for his defiance against foreign influence and his promise to restore Islamic values and justice. Iran's system of governance changed overnight, from monarchy to theocracy. A theocracy is a government ruled by religious leaders or guided by religious laws. In this system, religion and politics are deeply connected, and laws are based on religious teachings. Iran's government is a modern example, where religious authority holds significant political power. Soon after, students stormed the US Embassy in Tehran and took 52 American hostages, a standoff that lasted 444 days and shattered diplomatic ties. The West saw extremism. Iran saw a reckoning for decades of interference. Part 5. War, Sanctions, and Standoff Politics. In the 1980s, Iran was thrust into an 8-year war with Saddam Hussein's Iraq, one of the deadliest conflicts of the century. The US, among others, backed Iraq. During this time, Iran was increasingly viewed by the West as a destabilizing force, particularly for its support of groups like Hezbollah and its opposition to U.S. military presence in the region. President George W. Bush would later label Iran part of the axis of evil, intensifying tensions and isolating Iran further. Part 6: The Nuclear Question. Iran insisted its nuclear program was for energy and medical research. The West feared otherwise. Years of negotiations led to the JCPOA in 2015, an agreement where Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. The JCPOA, or Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was an agreement signed in 2015 between Iran and world powers to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting economic sanctions. It aimed to ensure Iran's nuclear activities were peaceful and to reduce the risk of nuclear weapons development. But in 2018, the US withdrew from the deal unilaterally. Iran felt betrayed again. Nuclear enrichment resumed. Assassinations of key Iranian figures followed. The spiral deepened. Part 7: Clash of Worldviews. At the heart of this conflict lies more than just politics, it's a clash of worldviews. Iranian leaders see themselves as resisting Western dominance and defending Islamic values. The West, especially the US, views Iran as a threat to allies like Israel and as a supporter of militant groups. Both sides accuse the other of hypocrisy, double standards, and aggression. What began with oil rights has evolved into a decades-long conflict shaped by pride, power, ideology, and deep historical memory. Part 8: Is reconciliation possible? Despite the tension, many ordinary Iranians admire Western music, education, and innovation. Movements for reform and freedom exist and grow louder. And in the West, there are voices that urge diplomacy, mutual respect, and recognition of Iran's sovereignty. But trust is not built overnight, especially when it's been broken repeatedly over decades. Peace is possible, but only if both sides are willing to confront the truths of their shared past and acknowledge each other's fears, mistakes, and hopes. What you should remember: the Iran-West conflict began with oil and deepened through political manipulation. The 1953 coup set off a chain reaction that still resonates. The 1979 revolution redefined Iran's identity and global position. Nuclear tensions remain unresolved and emotionally charged. Both sides have legitimate grievances and a shared history of mistrust. History teaches us that power without accountability leads to rebellion, and that peace without respect is only temporary. Understanding begins where blame ends, and reconciliation starts by listening to the other side's version of the story. If you believe learning from the past shapes a better future, subscribe now. Every story here is a lesson waiting to be heard. Thank you for watching.